So many of you may know, some of you may not know. So you can please repeat after me, and then we will see what this verse means. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Amba Tvam Anusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshinim. So Parthaya Pratibodhitam, that which was taught to Partha. Partha means Arjuna. Partha word comes from, Avaji will tell us, Pritha. Pritha, the mother of Arjuna. Pritha is also known as Kunti. Parthaya Pratibodhitam, by whom? It was taught by whom? By Bhagavatas, by God Himself. Narayanena Swayam. Swayam means Himself. So what was taught? That which was Grathitam, which was incorporated in the Mahabharata by the great sage Purana Munina Vyasa. Mahabharate Grathitam Purana Muninam Vyasa Dwarena. That is the and what are the characteristics? Amrit, the nectar, ambrosia of what? Advaita. So this Advaita nectar is showered by Gita. And it is like a mother, Amba. Amba is mother. Amba Tvam Anusandadhami. So, O mother, I meditate on thee. So, Gita is compared to our mother. That mother, because she is, as mothers are very concerned with the welfare of the child in all possible ways, similarly, Gita and the other scriptures also are, their compassion is limitless upon human beings. That is why they are always eager to show the correct path. So this we will chant every time we start the Gita. Once you get familiar, we will chant it together. Then we will chant the verse which you all know, that is the salutation to Sri Krishna, which begins with Vasudeva Sutam Devam. So let us chant it together. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. I salute the divine Krishna, teacher of the universe, Jagadguru. He is the son of Vasudeva and the giver of supreme delight to his mother Devaki. And he is also known as Kansa Chanura Mardana. Kansa and Chanur were two demons whom Shri Krishna killed. So we all bow down to Krishna, who was none other than God incarnate in human form. So today, as you've seen, will be just a general introduction to the Gita. So the points we will discuss are the historical aspect, what was the situation at that time, when we will just glance up on the great war, which is the backdrop of the Gita, fought in Kurukshetra. Then about Krishna himself we will discuss a little, and of course we will see how all important this scripture is, not only for particular followers of a particular religion, but for all mankind. So the scene of the delivery of the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, what does it mean? Gita means song. Gita means because it is feminine gender. Bhagavad Gita, it is not an ordinary song. It is a divine song. So it is translated as the song divine. Of course, briefly it is also known as the Gita. So this scripture taught by Sri Krishna to Arjuna, the scene is laid on the battlefield. This is probably the only scripture which is not taught in some peaceful ashrama and hermitage and all that. So a very, very incongruous, so to say, setting. Scene is laid on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Pandavas and Kauravas had assembled their armies for war. So there is no doubt that this kind of war had been fought, but scholars differ as regards the date of this battle. According to tradition, the battle was fought at the end of the Dwapar Yuga. After Dwapar Yuga comes the Kali Yuga, in which unfortunately we are. So Kali Yuga is believed to have started on 18 February 3102 BC. When Parikshit, grandson of Arjuna, ascended the throne of the Hastinapur. That is the supposed date. So this was in a previous yuga. Now we won't go into any controversy regarding the date and all, because that is not our aim. There are hundreds of opinions and there is no conclusive evidence either way. So we will just ignore that aspect. Now we will just small glimpse into the cause of this war. Most of you are very familiar with the Mahabharata. Julian, have you read a little of the Mahabharata? You know.
Of course.
So we know Dhritarashtra and Pandu were brothers. Dhritarashtra was blind. A blind person cannot rule the kingdom. So his younger brother Pandu became the ruler. Now Pandu also died because of a curse. And when he died, his sons were too young to take over the throne. And at that time, the sons of Dhritarashtra, Arjuna, etc., Duryodhana, etc., they were also very young. So Bhishma, the grandsire, the oldest member of the family, managed the affairs of the kingdom. Now when the young boys came of age, Duryodhana wanted to become the king by ousting Yudhishthira through hook or by crook. Any means possible. But since Yudhishthira was a very, very just, truthful and noble person, he was loved by everybody in the kingdom. So naturally, Duryodhana cannot antagonize anybody. So so that he should not have to antagonize, Bhishma advised Dhritarashtra to divide the kingdom between his sons and their brothers, Pandava brothers. Were so the sons of Dhritarashtra, Kuruvanshi, were known as Kauravas, and they, the other Yudhishthira and etc., since they were the sons of Pandu, they were known as the Pandavas. So this advice was followed. Bhishma's advice was followed at least for some time. Now Hastinapur was under Duryodhana and Indraprastha was given to the Pandava brothers. So they ruled for 36 years. But Duryodhana could not keep quiet. He was tremendously jealous because Indraprastha was flourishing. Everybody was singing their glories. Pandavas are so nice, etc. So he became terribly jealous. And to ruin them, Yudhishthira was he is called Dharma Raja, the embodiment of Dharma. But he had one weakness: gambling. Yeah, so if that is called, in those days it was called Pasa. Pasa means dice, game of dice. So when Duryodhana invited him for gambling, he could not refuse. And naturally Duryodhana had everything set up. His uncle Shakuni was a number one what you say, rascal, you can say. So he knew this. He was an expert in this crooked game of dice. So Yudhishthira went. He was cheated. He lost everything. Now, under the rules, he had to go to live in forests for 12 years. After that, he had to live incognito for 1 year. And if in that 1 year, Duryodhana could locate Yudhishthira, he would again have to go for 12 years to the forest. So by that time, he would, I think, you've gone from this earth. So, after the stipulated period, everything went well. 12 years were over. 1 year they could not find Yudhishthira. So Yudhishthira came back, now claimed his portion of the kingdom. But Duryodhana said, nothing doing, brother. Don't think of big, don't dream. He said, you are not getting even so much ground as can be covered by the tip of a needle. That sentence has become famous. So then what to do? Everybody tried. Even Krishna tried hard so that there should be no war. But Duryodhana was unrelenting. So ultimately, there was no other way. Everybody tried their best, but there had to be a war. So on one side there were 5 Pandavas: Yudhishthira eldest, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula and Sahadeva. And Arjuna was considered the mightiest among the contemporary warriors. And Sri Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. And of course, Sri Krishna himself was the most formidable warrior and even regarded as the incarnation of God in his lifetime. But Sri Krishna said, I may be on the side of the Pandavas, but I will not take up arms. I will not fight for them. I will just become the charioteer of Arjuna. So through the help and advice of Krishna, the result of the battle we know was in favor of the Pandavas. And Yudhishthira ascended the throne. Nearly everybody was killed. Not only on the opposing side, but on the side of the Pandavas also. So the battle is described in great details in the epic Mahabharata. And the Gita forms chapters 23 to 40 of the part of the Mahabharata which is known as Bhishma Parva. Each part is divided, chapters, Vana Parva, Bhishma Parva. So the part dealing with Bhishma, like that we can translate. Now, a little about Krishna. So, Krishna is also known as Vasudeva, son of Vasudeva. That also we are generally accepted that he was a historical person honored as an incarnation of Vishnu or Narayana. So, you all have heard of Megasthenes, the Greek ambassador to the court of Chandragupta. So, he mentions some words. In his writings, we can see about some persons he mentions, but their accent is completely different from the Indian accent. But still, we can make out what he meant to say. So he mentions that Heracles, so actually the name was Harikulesha, another name of Krishna, was worshipped by Shaurasenoi, that is Shurasenas, in whose land were two great cities, Mathura, it is Mathura, and Kleshobura, which is Krishnapura. So scholars have identified Heracles with Harikulesha, that is Krishna himself. And the Kaushitaki Brahmana refers to Krishna as a descendant of Angirasa, and the Chandogya Upanishad says that Krishna, the son of Devaki, was taught by Angirasa. So this much is sufficient for Krishna, because here also there are many opinions. We are not concerned with all those things. Now about the Gita itself. So Gita is ranked among the greatest religious scriptures of the world. And in India, it occupies a position only next to the Upanishads. And now it is a most, if not the most, popular Hindu scripture. Hindus of all sects and denominations revere this scripture. It is read daily by innumerable Hindus and also people of other religions for spiritual inspiration, and is held in the highest esteem by all, men, women, young, old, householder, monks. So there are three main scriptures which can be called the basis of Hinduism. What are those?
Vedas.
The
Vedas.
Yeah, Vedas are there, of course. Upanishads. Upanishads, second is the Bhagavad Gita. And the third is the Brahma Sutras. Brahma Sutras means written to make clear the significance of the Upanishads. Because at a cursory reading, Upanishads will give us various conflicting theories about God, etc. So what do those statements actually mean? What is the significance of the statements? To show that, the Brahma Sutras have been written. So these are the bedrock of Hinduism. Valid authorities on supersensuous truths. And we all know that they have been commented upon by very, very great scholars, saints. The three most important, three most famous are, of course, first of all, the one and only Shankaracharya, then Ramanujacharya, and Madhvacharya, generally known as Shankara, Ramanuja, and Madhva. So this is pronounced as Madhva because there is another scholar by the name of Madhavacharya, but he is a separate. So Madhvacharya and Madhavacharya are separate persons. So, by many, the Gita is considered as a summing up of the Upanishad, so to say. Summing up may not be the correct word, something which gives us the essence of the Upanishads. And in many places, it quotes from the Upanishads verbatim. There is a common verse which you all know most probably, which describes this, that what? All the Upanishads are like cows. So the most important part of the cow which nourishes us is the milk. And who is milking the cow? Shri Krishna himself. And who is he giving it to? Who is the calf? The calf is Arjuna. And who enjoy drinking that milk? Who are benefited by that milk? The wise ones. And what is that milk? That nectar is the Bhagavad Gita. So this Gita, like the Upanishads, has been translated into practically all the widely spoken languages in India and also the principal languages of the whole world. As early as the time of Akbar, 1556 to 1605, this book was translated into Persian by the famous Abul Fazl and Faizi. So about the Bhagavad Gita, we can just quote from Encyclopedia Britannica also, which says that the influence of the Gita has been profound. It was a popular text open to all who would listen and want to know about the fundamental truths of Hinduism or Vedanta. So the importance of the Gita for the Hindus is proved by the fact that almost all the religious leaders following Shankaracharya have written commentaries on it. So in the commentaries, the earliest commentary of which there is a note which has been mentioned is the commentary by Bodhayana. Neither Shankaracharya nor Ramanuja lay any claim to originality, mind you. They just say that we are only presenting before you what the sages have said. Not like today where everybody, claims to be something unique. Not at all. So, Ramanuja says specifically, as far as I remember, Swami Vivekananda has quoted him where on his Brahma Sutra Bhashya, he says specifically that I am just writing the views of Bodhayana. But Swami Vivekananda, he travelled throughout India and tried very hard to locate a copy of this Bodhayana commentary on the Gita. But unfortunately, he could not find even a single copy. So that is most probably lost forever. So we have seen that among the scholars, Shankara, Ramanuja and Madhva were the main, and also some others are there, Vallabhacharya, Nimbarkacharya, Vijnana Bhikshu, Gyaneshwar, he is written in Marathi, Tukaram, etc. Many saints are there. One more commentary which is very famous among the scholars, which is almost entirely based on Shankara's commentary. We can say that it is a commentary on the commentary of Shankaracharya. That was by the great scholar and saint Madhusudan Saraswati. So since he is such an important personality, we can just mention that he divides the Gita into 3 sections of 6 chapters each. As you know, Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. So he divides it into 6 chapters each, dealing successively with Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So according to him, the first Karma Yoga leads to Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti Yoga leads to Jnana Yoga. This is the opinion of Madhusudan Saraswati. Another opinion which we can consider is by a very famous scholar, Anandagiri. Anandagiri has written commentaries explaining the commentary of Shankaracharya. So, practically, as far as I know, all the Upanishads of Shankaracharya and the Bhagavad Gita have been explained. Shankaracharya's commentaries have been explained by Anandagiri. So, he is a very, very well known. And actually, people who try to understand Shankaracharya, most of them take the help of Anandagiri's commentary. So he says that the true meaning, that the 3 sections of the Gita, 6 chapters each, Anandagiri says that the 3 sections are concerned with the ascertainment of the true meaning of the Upanishad Mahavakya, great saying of the Upanishad. What? Thou art that. Tat Tvam Asi. So since these are very great scholars, we should just know how they interpret the Gita. Shankaracharya himself makes no such division. But he lays down a specific way in which spiritual development takes place. Shankaracharya gives us these stages. That how a human being proceeds towards that supreme goal, which is called realization of God or realization of Brahman. So what are those stages? Just we can have a glance, after that we may go into detail. So first is practice of spiritual rights and duties in a selfish way, where we are all are. We do our duties at that, but we want something for it. But human beings then progress further. They then do their duties as a dedication to God without expecting any reward. Because of that unselfishness, what happens? The minds are purified. So, purification of the mind and moral excellence result. Another thing which goes with the unselfish performance of duties is upasana, which is devotion to and meditation on God. Okay? Then what happens? He advances further, acquires knowledge from a teacher and the scriptures of the supreme goal of life. Then he renounces formal rights and duties. This renunciation makes him fit for steadfastness in the supreme knowledge. When the fitness is acquired by practice, he becomes steadfast in that knowledge. Pratisthita, which is called. When he becomes steadfast, ignorance is removed, ajnana is gone, and then in his pure mind, Supreme Brahman is revealed spontaneously. When that happens, that is called moksha or liberation. So this is the way in Shankaracharya traces the development, our development in the spiritual path, one by one by one. Almost all of us start from the lowest ladder, the lowest rung of the ladder, selfish performance of the duties, but then gradually, if we persist, we climb higher and higher. So, we have seen that Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. It is in the form of a dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield, and the setting of the battlefield contributes a dramatic element to the book. And it also relates spiritual life with everyday realities of life. That is the thing. Otherwise, if everything is taught in jungles and hermitages and absolutely calm and peaceful, people will say we can't live there. So what relevance it has for us? That is why maybe Sri Krishna chose the battlefield. So we all know that Sri Krishna taught this to Arjuna, his dearest disciple. But from the human standpoint, Krishna and Arjuna are friends and companions, but and also relatives, because Kunti was Krishna's aunt, so they were also brothers. But in a deeper sense, Krishna and Arjuna, they are one soul in two bodies, two aspects of that same reality. Their conjoined forms are still worshipped in India under the name of Partha Sarthi. Krishna as Arjuna's charioteer. Again, in the shrine of Badri Narayan, they are worshipped as Nara Narayana. Arjuna is Nara, a human being, and Krishna as Narayana or God. So the two, God and man, form the total picture of the Godhead. So there are many persons who regard the story behind the Gita as an allegory. To them, Arjuna represents the individual soul, ordinary person like us, and Krishna, the supreme soul, dwelling in every heart. So, charioteer means he is guiding the chariot of Arjuna. What is Arjuna's chariot in this allegorical interpretation? Arjuna's chariot is his body. And Dhritarashtra is shown to be blind. What does blindness mean? When we are ignorant, we are blind. We cannot see properly. So the blind king Dhritarashtra is the mind under ignorance. And his 100 sons are numerous evil tendencies. So good tendencies, Pandavas only 5. So what is the battle here? The battle here is between the power of good and the power of evil. So who wins? The person who listens to the advice of God, obeys the teachings of God from within, will triumph in this battle. One who listens to the other side, who gives way to evil tendencies, will finally lose. So this is an interpretation worthy of our attention. Now about the study of the Gita, one may read the Gita without the help of any commentary, but that, although we may feel a little uplifted, but that will not really help us, because only the commentaries on the Gita reveal the subtlety, grandeur, depth and sublimity of these great scriptures. Without the help of those commentaries, for 99.99% people, it is impossible to discover the thread which connects verse to verse and verse to chapters. The text of the Gita well serves the purpose of daily devotional reading also, but the commentaries help us to sound its very depths, as it were. But there is a great but here. No amount of critical study will enable us to grasp the real meaning of the Gita unless we are possessed of those qualities which are necessary to gain that understanding. And unfortunately, those qualities are not easy to acquire. The same qualities are also mentioned in the Upanishads as being the necessary qualities for understanding the Upanishads. So the real essence of these scriptures cannot be understood till we are fit. Our mind it is just like sowing seeds in a field which is ready, which has been made ready. So immediately the seed will sprout. Otherwise, it may take a long time, it may not sprout at all. That is the thing. So these qualities, if someone doesn't even try to practice these actually in his life, acquire these qualities actually, understanding the Gita in the true sense of the term is absolutely impossible. He may study, he may learn the verses, he may even give lectures on the Gita, but he himself will be far away. So what are those qualities? Those 6 spiritual virtues we'll have to discuss in detail later. So here we will just mention those. First, control of the sense organs, control of the mind. Then comes forbearance. Then comes pratyahara, withdrawal from the distracting objects of the world. Then comes shraddha or faith. Then one-pointedness of the mind. And lastly, we should have intense longing for the vision of God or for liberation. Liberation from these illusory experiences of this world to which we are so much attached. So many nice things are there here. So only when we at least try, gaining perfection in these is a long way off. But at least we should be aware. Only equipped with these 4 qualifications, we may come to understand the profound meaning of the scripture, not otherwise. Because this is not an academic thing. We are not getting a PhD or a scholarship. If that is our aim, no problem. But that is not the real aim of the scriptures. So, I had not studied any philosophy before I came into contact with Vivekananda's writings and all. So when I read, I was amazed. So I was one monk whom I used to go to. I told him, why isn't it more popular? Why we should not go to these great thoughts? He told me, all the philosophical courses teach Shankaracharya. They teach Ramanuja. So all the students of philosophy know about these things. But they don't grow spiritually because their aim is not that. Their aim is only academic. It is just a course material for them. So for us also, if we don't understand the importance of these qualities, of inculcating these qualities, this will just become a course material. You may read, you may write also books, there is no problem. But still, we won't get the essence of the Gita. That is the very important point. So, reading the Gita, what is the aim? The aim is transformation of our life, not the satisfaction of just idle curiosity. It is not just intellectual knowledge, but actually gaining something in the field of spirituality. That should be the aim. So the mind should be introspective. And if these qualities are not inculcated, then we will never gain introspection. The mind will always be going outside. If there is no self control, no attempt at contemplation, it is just going outside, that's all. And that kind of outward going mind can never understand the scriptures. Because the Gita, we should know, it is not a philosophical work in that sense. Philosophical work, if you want to read, you read suppose Vedanta, if you are interested in. Now, there are many books which are supposed to be for beginners. Actually, no book is for beginners. But there are many, for those who are introduction, they say that Viveka Chudamani, these types of books are for beginners. So, these Viveka Chudamani, it is a practical book. It tells us what you should do, what you should not do. And of course, generalizes some points of the philosophy also. But suppose you want to go deep into Vedanta philosophy itself, all regulated one by one as a proper philosophical treatise, then you have to go to some other book, like the Vedanta Sara. Another book is Vedanta Paribhasha. So all those books are just philosophical treatises. But Gita is not like that. It is not adhering to a particular philosophy or anything. It is a practical manual. It says you have to do this and not this. Why? It gives the reason. And the metaphysics which are there in the Gita are only to supplement these practical teachings. This point has to be remembered. So Gita is an inspired dialogue. It is that living dialogue which the discerning man finds constantly in his heart, between his everyday worldly self and the higher self. So this dialogue has to begin in the heart first. He has to ponder about what he is doing. Is there anything else worthwhile other than eating some ice creams or seeing some movies or saving some dollars and attending grandchildren birthday parties? Is there anything higher? That has to arise from within, otherwise it is no use. So when this dialogue starts within and man's search starts for something higher, then only he tries to acquire these 6 qualities, spiritual virtues. Along with that, the study of the scriptures go hand in hand, then he can progress, not otherwise. So to such a student, it appears that he himself is raising the questions which Arjuna is raising. And it is being answered by God. So the proper spirit of approaching Gita is this. One can see himself in the place of Arjuna. He also feels the dilemma and confusion as one's own. And he can then immediately relate to what Sri Krishna is telling. So the Gita is a yoga shastra, a scripture on yoga, practically applied. Here yoga means the union of the individual soul with the divine soul. So yoga is actually the goal of all religions and the basis of all religious philosophies. Because the aim of all religions is only one, to unite us with God, to take us nearer to God. So, instead of laying down creeds and doctrines for acceptance by religious aspirants, Yoga emphasizes the psychological approachment to spiritual progress. Self unfoldment, you can say, self realization, you can say. So, yoga takes into consideration different types of human minds: the active mind, the philosophical mind, the emotional mind. And for them, it expounds various paths. Active mind, karma yoga; philosophical mind, jnana yoga, etc. We know that. So, in the Gita, we find a wonderful synthesis, which we will later see. So, Gita is the Yoga Shastra. It is also called Brahma Vidya. Vidya means knowledge. Knowledge of what? Not knowledge of the stocks and shares and bank interest. No. It is the knowledge of Brahman, the supreme reality, the science of the absolute. And it is also known as Moksha Shastra, the scripture dealing with liberation. So, for whom liberation has no meaning, to be inspired to gain liberation, one should first have the sense of bondage. If you don't feel that I am bound, liberation has no meaning. The word. So this sense of bondage first has to arise in the human mind. We have to feel in our heart of hearts that this is not everything. Till we outgrow, this scripture can have no meaning. Any scripture can have no meaning. Till a child, Sri Ramakrishna has told in very simple terms, till a child is busy with toys, he sees nothing higher. Because for him the toys are everything. So when we outgrow that, when he becomes a little bigger, he will think that no, something else is there. This is not the whole thing. So when we start feeling that this world is not everything, eating, drinking, sleeping, merry-go-round, something higher is there, without which life has no meaning, then one feels the need to know about that. And then one goes to the scriptures. That is the thing. Without that, if that need is not felt, these scriptures have no meaning. So it is just, even if someone studies, it is just academic. So it is a Moksha Shastra, we should remember. Scripture dealing with liberation. Of course, we know that its immediate purpose seems to persuade Arjuna to follow the path of his duty. But the real message is of truth and salvation. The problems discussed are philosophical as well as metaphysical: God, soul, hereafter, evolution, matter, spirit, duty, even social service to some extent, and the rest. So here man is understood as an integral whole whose activities and feelings are not to be departmentalized, so to say, in watertight compartments. Even his most trivial work, even our most trivial work, cannot be understood or evaluated unless it is related to the very root of our being. So the aim of Krishna's teaching is to remove the doubts and delusions that overpower us, ordinary human beings, in everything, great or small. So final solution is given here, not temporary solution. Temporary solutions are found every day. But the final solution of all our problems, great and small, can only be had when we realize the truth, not before. So then alone, once a person has realized the truth, he is completely prepared to face the world and his duties with the strength and understanding derived from that realization. What is that realization? That realization is being established in yoga. Feeling the presence of God in one's own heart. Then you are ready to face all kinds of torments, all kinds of problems. So, very simple example is given that a child is playing around a pillar. So, he's going round and round the pillar. But first, what does he do? First, he catches the pillar. Otherwise, if he goes round and round, he will fall. He's apt to fall. But once he has caught that pillar, no problem. He can whirl as much as he likes. He is safe. So here also, after a man has established God in his heart through spiritual practices, he is safe forever. So these scriptures tell us how to do that. Swami Vivekananda said, and even the great Shankaracharya has said, that this contains the essence of the scriptures, the essential meaning of the Vedas. And Swami Vivekananda has also said, here one finds the fairest flowers of the Vedas, cleared of the weeds and underbrush of rituals, ceremonies and myths. So, it is just like that example, that getting the cow from the milk, getting the absolute essence of what the scriptures want to tell us. So, if you have read even a little of the commentaries and all, you may find some some doubts may be there, that what does Gita teach us to do? And many books in Vedanta are also there which, so to say, teach actionless state. There is a one book also, Naishkarmya Siddhi, all this. So, and there are many arguments in Shankaracharya also where he says that work and knowledge cannot go together. But these can be terribly misunderstood if we are not taught the meaning properly. So one thing we should remember, that incessant action, incessant activity is what the Gita teaches. The spiritual aspirant must work. He must work constantly. Everything is work. Even sadhana is work. Meditation is work. Japa is work. So he must work constantly for his own good and also for the stability of the world order. But each and every kind of work done in any way is not taught by the Gita. Go and fight for wealth, power and all these things and think that you are obeying the Gita. No. We have to work, but why and how? There should be only one motive for work: purification of mind. And all the work which we do, Shri Krishna says to Arjuna, all the work that you do, neither let your motive be to gain something from that work, but on the other hand, you also should not be attached to non-action. All of you know that verse. So both the things are said. You have to work, but not expect anything from the work. But since you are not getting anything from the work, don't think that I will just go and take rest. I don't need to work. No. You can't do without work. For an ignorant person, it is impossible to stay without work. So work, but in such a way that your mind is purified. So inertia, laziness should not at all be linked with spirituality in any way. Inertia, indolence, and inadvertence are the worst enemies of spiritual life and are more harmful than majority of the notorious sins also. So in this, there is a amusing incident also, how Swami Vivekananda emphasizes this. So in one of his lecture, he says, I quote him, I once met a man in my country whom I had known before as a very lazy and dull person, who had no desire to do anything, no desire to know anything. He was living the life of absolutely parasite, so to say. So he asked me what he should do to know God. So Swami Vivekananda says, he asked that person, can you tell a lie? He said no. Then Swami Vivekananda said, then you must learn to do so. It is much better to lie also than to live this life of a brute or a log of wood. Because if you are inactive, completely inactive, you are in the lowest state. So even being active on a different plane is better. Of course, he says afterward, this was an extreme case and I was joking with him. But what I meant was that a man must be tremendously active in order to pass through activity to perfect calmness. Perfect calmness is a long way off. Tremendous activity, a lot of hard work is needed. So this we should never, never, never forget. Incessant activity directed towards the highest goal. So that's why when Arjuna said, I want to be a recluse and just calm and quiet, I don't want to engage in all this fighting and all this nonsense. Shri Krishna said, nothing doing. So his aim was to rescue Arjuna from this dreamy ideal of a life of a recluse and make him plunge into activity. So that through activity, after the mind is purified, he'll be fit for that. That state has to come. You can't just say, I've become a big Advaitin or big this. It has to come naturally. And it cannot come until we first try our utmost to work to gain that fitness. Even worldly achievements cannot be had without work. So, what to speak of the most difficult, which are spiritual achievements. So, throughout the Gita, Shri Krishna urges Arjuna to perform his duty on the battlefield. Arjuna is confused about his duties. Must a man cling to his worldly duties even if they bring suffering and pain to himself and others? Does not duty cause friction and irritation? Is it not our duty to cast off duties and follow the line of least resistance, non-activity? This was Arjuna's dilemma. And this sometimes we also face. So, Sri Krishna answers all these questions. And slowly, when we proceed in our study, we will know all these answers. So, performance of duty is absolutely essential. Any dereliction there means no chance of spiritual progress, absolutely no chance. But this duty cannot be done in any way we like, grudgingly or in any other attitude. No. This duty has to be done with the highest attitude. What? Worship to God. Duty is as good as worshipping God. duty performed in this spirit only confers joy. Grudgingly done, it will be just a drudgery. That is the thing. But to do this, perform work in this way is not at all easy. The mind has to be very, very pure first, and it has to be raised to a higher state of consciousness. So, how this duty is to be performed, Sri Krishna himself tells in the Gita, which is a very, very famous slok of Gita, that how to perform karma. He says, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Yoge Sthita means being established in yoga, being established in a very high state. Perform your karma. Otherwise, that karma can never be unselfish, can never be done as a dedication to God, as a worship of God. It can never be possible. And this being established in yoga is not a joke. That is why all these disciplines are given first. So, following these disciplines, for trying to inculcate these disciplines, has to go hand in hand with performance of duties, with the study of scriptures. We should not think that first let me get perfection in all those 6 qualifications and then start the study of the Gita. No. All these, when supported by each other, slowly purify our mind. Perform duty in whatever as unselfishness as we can be right now. But try to go higher. How to go higher? By simultaneously trying to cultivate these virtues. All these. Forbearance, unattached to worldly things, trying to control our mind. And together with the study of the scriptures. So when all these three things are done with great dedication, not for one day, but as long as it takes, that factor should not be there. It may take 20 years, it may take 40 years. Because once you've decided that is the only thing to be done, then what does it matter? After God realization, you don't have to catch a flight or anything. So, it doesn't matter. If once we have determined that is the only thing is to be done, so let it take. What's the problem? But here we are sure that if we persist, we are sure to reach the goal. It cannot be otherwise, because the goal is not separate from us. It cannot go away from us. We are preventing ourselves from reaching that. So once we remove the obstructions, the goal is always there. God is always there. So this was just a very brief introduction, and from next time we will also glance a little at the synthesis which is in the Gita, just a glance, and how Sankhya has been mentioned in the Gita, and we can also try to study the introductions written by the great commentators like Shankaracharya, Ramanuja, and all these things. So maybe 1 or 2 discussions for reading their introductions, and then we can start the actual verses. So when we start reading any introduction, Shankaracharya introduction, one of the words with which we are all familiar, that word will come dharma. But this word is generally translated as religion. But the meaning is very, very deep. So without understanding the concept of dharma, scriptures we cannot really understand. So when we meet again, most probably next time, we will have the discussion on dharma. What does it mean? In the Shankaracharya's commentary itself, he says, introduction itself, he says, there are two dharmas taught by the Vedas. Dvivido hi vedokto dharma. Pravritti lakshana, nivritti lakshanascha. So each of these things, dharma, pravritti dharma, nivritti dharma, each requires a separate discussion. There are so many things to know. So, most probably, the next discussion will be on the dharma, knowing the essence of this word which has such wide-reaching influence and so many connotations. That is very important. So, it will be very nice if you could attend. So, let us stop here. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri